The Denver Nuggets will be making some serious changes this season in a way that is absolutely imperative for what David Adelman's plans are for the Nuggets going forward. As Adelman's plans have been revealed for this Denver Nuggets team and how to optimize this roster in every sense of the word. As the Nuggets, they've gotten a lot deeper this year and the title aspirations stay as strong as ever. And we are going to go over all of this, break down what these changes are, how they're going to impact the Denver Nuggets, and how it's eventually going to affect the playoffs and the Nuggets' entire title run as well. But guys, before we do that, if you're part of that 75% that's not subscribed to Nuggets Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily Denver Nuggets videos. We have a lot of great stuff coming out every single day that you do not want to miss out on. We're having a bunch of fun on this channel, so make sure to subscribe for daily Denver Nuggets updates for myself and Amy, and let's jump into the video and have a lot of fun talking some Denver Nuggets basketball, man. Look, David Adelman is really going into his first head coaching season. I know I've said this before on videos, but not that I don't count last year. I do. I count the playoffs. He did a very, very good job coaching them, and obviously in those last 3 games as well. But he hasn't coached an NBA season yet. He's coached 3 games of an NBA season and the playoffs. Now we're going to see how he counters people who are countering his own game plans. We're going to see the chess match really start to take off and see a lot into David Adelman and what he's going to do to help this Denver Nuggets team win an NBA championship. And he's going to do a lot of stuff different from what Mike Malone did when he was at the helm for Denver. And with all that in mind, there is a lot of questions that do have to be answered going forwards. And we have some of those questions and some of those answers about the Nuggets that many fans have been wondering about. Again, as we know, the Nuggets, they did a very good job bringing in more talent to come off the bench, whether it was Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas. They added a lot of talented guys to this roster, or in Brown's case, brought back talent. And with all these guys, it now feels like the Nuggets have one of the better benches in the NBA. I mean, now it went from a bottom 5 bench for any team in the playoffs, really, to one of the best playoff bench teams and one of the best bench teams on a contender. The Nuggets knew what they had to do in the offseason. Trading Michael Porter Jr. gave them the money to do that, and they did it very, very well, while also adding Cameron Johnson as well, who we're going to talk about in the future because we do have some Cameron Johnson stuff to break down. But it was recently mentioned by Denver reporter Bennett DiNardo that he said, I actually think the Nuggets will get, and not just the Nuggets, but 2 of the Nuggets' young talents in Jalen Pickett and Julian Strawther will get pretty decent playing time over the course of the regular season. That doesn't mean they'll be in the rotation for all 82 games, but even before the interim tag was removed earlier this year, Coach David Adelman was very articulate about his belief that Denver needs to find a way to get to the playoffs without burning out the starters in the 2025-26 season. Guys like Strawther and Pickett are part of that formula. At a minimum, DiNardo said that his guess is that Adelman wouldn't have played 33-year-old Reggie Jackson 82 games 2 seasons ago, and he won't play 33-year-old Tim Hardaway Jr. 82 games next season. Now, again, they did bring in veterans to the team, which is an interesting part of this, because we look at Tim Hardaway Jr., who was brought in, and he put up 11 points per game last year, 2.5 rebounds, and 1.6 assists, shooting 37% from 3 and 40% from the field with the Detroit Pistons, where 67, so 2/3 of his shots did come from behind the arc. He's a good 3-point shooter, don't get me wrong. He is streaky as hell. He can have games where he's hitting 5 threes and going 5 for 7. There's also games where he's going 1 for 6. We've seen both. In the playoffs, he was kind of a mixed bag, but not really excellent against the Knicks at all. Meanwhile, we also look at Bruce Brown, who was brought back, and he was on just a couple different teams where he didn't fit last year. I mean, he was with Toronto for a bit, and they weren't really winning games, and then he was with New Orleans, who wasn't winning games, and it kind of led to Bruce Brown not being optimized. He's a guy who's going to play best on a winning team, and last year he put up 8.3 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, also got a steal per game, shot 39% from the corner 3. He's now 29 years old, and Cowboy Bruce is still one of the most loved players in Denver for all the stuff he was able to do to help the Nuggets get to and win the NBA Finals just a few years ago. So Bruce Brown now back with a team that he's going to know how to play with these guys. A lot of this is the same core. The one difference in the starting lineup is Cameron Johnson's replacing Michael Porter Jr. Outside of that, it's the same start, and also KCP's going with Christian Brown, but they're very similar players in a lot of ways, where that's not the craziest thing in the world either. So Bruce Brown is going to fit right in with his old squad that still has Jokić, Jamal Murray, AG, and some other talent as well who he's familiar with. So it's going to be huge to come back and really see this. While also, we look at the Nuggets, and this is going to be really interesting to see how guys like Pickett and Strawther each get into games. Because, look, we look at the rotation, and there is some pathways for minutes, specifically for one of them, whichever one you want to choose. I would go Strawther, personally, because Strawther, he is kind of in that backup right now. When you look at the Nuggets rotation and you just look at the roster and everything, like, they don't really have a true backup point guard. Bruce Brown can handle it, though. And then on top of that, we have Julian Strawther and Tim Hardaway Jr. Then there's also Peyton Watson and Jonas Valanciunas. Obviously, it's not clear if Peyton Watson's going to be getting those backup minutes or it's going to be De'Ron Holmes. That is partially going to be decided throughout the preseason. And I want it to be Holmes, personally. So Pickett is going to struggle to find some minutes in there, but we know Adelman wants to run a very deep bench where he's not really playing the starters a ton of minutes because it just feels like the right call to really not burn the guys out. So come the playoffs, he can kind of shrink that rotation back down to 8 or 9 guys, and if the starters playing the heavy minutes, the starters usually do in the playoffs. It's the right move if you ask me, and when we look last year at the teams that used their benches the least by minutes per game, we see that the Nuggets were one of 4 teams to have their bench playing under 80 minutes per game, so their bench entirely. Now, those other teams were the Rockets, who had 78.4, and then the Nuggets had the 3rd least bench minutes per game, with the only 2 teams trailing them being the Sacramento Kings at 70.8, and then the Knicks being the only team in the 60s at 63.5, because, well, if you heard of Tom Thibodeau before, that's really what we're seeing right here. So we're going to see this fly up. It's a new head coach, it's a new regime, and they are going to use that bench unit. Now, obviously, part of the situation that we're also seeing at hand here for a guy like David Adelman, the coach of this team, the bench is so much better than it was last year. That's part of it. But also, we know how Mike Malone operates. The man is no stranger to not using a bench whatsoever. He really rides the starters hard, especially in the playoffs, and he has no remorse about doing so. And look, he's a championship head coach for a reason, but at the same time, it doesn't mean Adelman's not going to do that in the playoffs, or he's not going to play his starters a ton of minutes. But in the regular season, we know the Nuggets are making the playoffs. That's not a big debate here. So as long as everyone stays healthy, they could run an 11-man rotation if they want to keep everyone as fresh as humanly possible for the playoffs, and I have zero problem with them doing that. In fact, I actually like the idea of it. I agree with David Adelman on this front. I hated how much the Nuggets were playing last year, like how much their starters were playing. Now we look at Pickett and what he was able to do in the G League and also in the NBA. When we go to the NBA and we see Pickett's game, he played 13.5 minutes per game last year, put up 4 points, 1.5 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 40% from 3, and 47% on corner threes. Look, he's about to turn 26 years old by the time the season's beginning, and he is ready to go when it comes to being a shooter. He adds another shooter to this team, and if he can hit on a higher clip now, that would be absolutely huge for the Nuggets going forwards. He played a lot of time in the G League as well. Not a lot of time, but he played a good amount of G League games, putting up 22 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. The man was excellent, don't get me wrong. So when we look at Jalen Pickett now, he's fighting to actually get minutes in there, and I believe that he does have a real pathway to start showing up and showing out because the Nuggets could use a bit more shooting on this roster. It was a bit of an issue last year, and that was highlighted by DiNardo, who said, with this all being said, Denver's bench ultimately will be a meritocracy. Julian Strawther in Game 6 against the Thunder and Pickett against Sacramento both showed encouraging flashes late last season, but if they play poorly, they'll play less. The Nuggets should have enough depth for that to be the case now. It's more than last year, and this is going to be an open competition. I hope our young guys understand that, Adelman told the Denver Post in July. There's nothing ambiguous about his approach to this. He's telling everyone what it is. The young guys, if they perform, they will play. If they don't perform, they will not play. I'm already really excited to watch David Adelman coach. He's really, so far, he's saying all the right stuff. But we've seen Pickett perform in the G League, as we know. The man was winning awards down there. And then also when we look towards Julian Strawther, he in himself had that great Game 6 where he went 3 for 4 from 3 and helped Denver force that Game 7. They'd ultimately lose to the Thunder, put up 15 points on that front. And also when we just look at Julian Strawther throughout last season, he was solid. He played 21 minutes per game, put up 9 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist. He only shot 35% from 3, but we know how much that can go up based off the 54% in the corner 3. Obviously, it's not the most attempts in the world, but still, he shot 54% on corner 3s. We have to really take some stock in that. And he also shot 43% from the field as well. So with all that in mind, when we look at Julian Strawther's game, he's someone who I've believed in heavily for a long time now, and I do want to see him get more minutes with the Nuggets. Really, if I had to see one of these guys play, I'd rather it be Julian Strawther. I just love the way that Julian Strawther plays basketball. I think he's such a perfect fit for this team. But I want to see both guys play in the effort of adding more shooting to this team. Be an elite shooting team. We desperately need it. It would be absolutely huge going forwards, especially because Jonas Valanciunas, I mean, as far as big men go, he's going to shoot the 3 a bit, and he's going to shoot a ton of mid-ranges, but he's not necessarily a stretch big fully, so having some more guys on there, especially if there's situations where Valanciunas and Aaron Gordon are on the floor together, which is going to happen considering they're both going to have big roles with the Nuggets, you want 3 other shooters out there, whether it's Jamal Murray and just enter 2 people. If it's Cam Johnson, if it's Pickett, Strawther, Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, you want to make sure there's shooters out there. But guys, what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I will catch you later.